Hello, everyone. I'm here today with Captain Seth Keshel. Seth, it's good to see you, my friend.
Doug, it's good as always to talk shop with you, especially your great state of Pennsylvania.
Yeah, where you originally came from, I believe.
Well, the Keshel family has roots in Pennsylvania, not where I was born, but southeastern Pennsylvania, Montgomery County, Lancaster County,
Right in my
lots of family ties there. Yes.
Beautiful, beautiful. Well, Seth and his lovely wife, Rachel, were at an event that STN hosted several months ago, and Seth edified us a great deal about elections, election integrity, and what's going on out there. So, basically, at this point, Seth, we're seeing a lot of change, a lot of things happening. This last election that we had here in Pennsylvania and a number of states didn't quite go the way we had hoped. And I'm sure you have a great deal of thought about that and have some idea as to why, in your mind, things went so far awry.
Yeah, it's a bit of a gray world for me sometimes being a numbers guy. This is what I do. I didn't expect success anywhere in the map on Tuesday night, and that has little to do with how I feel about the administration or anyone else. It's just what history tells me. And a better example. I mean, I realize things went poorly there. It went poorly in a number of counties, like Luzerne County. I saw that as well. But in Virginia, people expected to win. For some reason, people on our side expected that we were going to dominate the ticket up and down the race. But since 1977, 12 of 13 races in Virginia have been won by the party, not in the White House. None of those races, except for one, were even closer than 5.1%. So the Dems clearly were going to have an upper hand in a state that is increasingly turning blue, the opposite of how Pennsylvania is going. But that's where political science takes over. But you also have a lot of issues. The blowout at the top of the ticket resulted in a lot more damage down ballot than should have happened. We do have mobilization issues within the Republican Party that if they were fixed, it would have saved a lot of House of Delegates seats in Virginia. I still think that they've figured out a way to master ballot harvesting on the front loading of ballots. I think that's probably why you see the disparity where most people had Spanberger likely to win in the upper single digits. She won by almost 15 points. I think that was enough to carry over the Attorney General candidate who wants to murder children. So there's a lot of issues, and election integrity to me remains at the forefront of the operation. But also, you have to blend this with realistic takes on what happens throughout history. And off-year, midterm, and special elections are always bad for the president's party.
Well, you have done some amazing analysis on elections, previous and ongoing. Maybe you can give our viewers a little bit of an idea of what your history has been with that. I know the 24 election was one that you predicted pretty much 100%. And, without giving away trade secrets, how you managed to do that, my friend.
Voter registration by party. That is what I monitor to get a true idea of what things are shaping up with. It's the truest indicator of how people feel around the country. Sometimes it's a leading indicator. Other times it's a lagging indicator. Right now in Pennsylvania, it's turning into a lagging indicator of a massive shift towards the GOP, although it's still predictive with the margins. Look, when people gauge the head of the party as their standard, so when they see Donald Trump as the head of the Republican Party over enough time, their changes in voter registration are going to reflect how they feel about the GOP. And the fact is that every single state that registers voters by party, except for one since 2024, that's New York, just came out, has moved towards the Republican Party. And the only reason New York moved the other way is because hundreds of thousands of New Yorkers just registered in the Democrat primaries, but knowing that they're going to have a Democrat mayor. So whichever way the voter registration moves, to the right or to the left, is the likeliest indication of which way that state will move in the next presidential election. Now, the figures, of course, when I post my updates tomorrow, people are going to say, well, if this was important, why'd the Republicans lose everywhere in 2021? They're not considering the dynamics of midterm, off-year, and special elections. They are the off-year and special elections are the equivalent of a really tough mid-major football program showing up on campus on Saturday and the home team's not expecting a fight. And it's a chance for an upset. Now, in a presidential election, you're not going to find Democrats upsetting in places like Iowa. But even in Pennsylvania, the Dems have flipped a few Republican legislative seats in 2025. It's the same impact. But once you have a fuller turnout, you're going to have a truer result. So either way, people need to understand why this is important for 2026. And it's not to set expectations low. It's to help understand which seats are and are not going to be playable in a midterm featuring a Republican presidential candidate. People are going after way too many targets when they need to be concentrating time, energy, and money in seats that can be won.
And that's the key, is focus. And we just went through this challenge, I'll call it, on multiple levels in multiple states. But I look at the voter turnout. I look at for lack of a better term, I'm going to call it apathy on our side of individuals that just feel they don't need to go out. They don't need to vote. It's just local elections. It's no big deal. But really, it's where it all starts. And, my concern is the 26 election, that we may have the same type of mentality on our side. And, all we need is to lose that house and we're done.
Well, look, it's not a matter of if there's less turnout than there is in a presidential election, it's when. There is going to be lower turnout. That's just how midterms go. I'm actually writing an article right now that I'm going to release today on Substack about why midterm, off-year, and special elections are bad for the president's party. And the numbers in Virginia, there's almost 1.2 million fewer votes total in Virginia governor's race than there were for president just a year ago. And the way that the cookie crumbled was Trump actually had 150,000 more votes than Spanberger, who just won by 15 points. He had over 600,000 more votes than Winsome Earl Sears. So you're correct that there's low Republican turnout. I think that the base probably did turn out. I think that there's 1.4 million voters that you call base voters, but the low prop voter. And also, Trump had a number of voters in Northern Virginia, Prince William County, for example, that crossed over for him. And he tightened margins substantially there. The Republican ticket did not get the crossover effect. That's part because of the midterm and special election science, political science. In Pennsylvania, what that would come out to is that would be Trump's big gains over in Monroe County and Lackawanna County would have stayed loyal to the Dems in an off-year election like this. Mm-hmm. So people need to triangulate these races. We are going to have lower turnout. It's going to be selectively going after which races. If these are states that are heavy on the mail-in balloting and we're still doing the ballot chasing stuff, knowing which precincts to go do that in. So I created a report for a Washington State City Council candidate who lost in 2023, turned out, and he won by over 20 points on Tuesday. So wow. This is possible to do, but it needs to. It's a sad thing because there are certain races you need to look at and know that you're not going to win in an off-year election. Yeah. All right, and then focus on the ones that you can win. There is a very narrow path for the GOP to hold the House majority, but history suggests 20 out of 23 midterms since 1934, the president's party loses seats, and the average loss is 27 seats. And the movement is not dead if we lose the House in 2026. Ronald Reagan got smoked in both midterms in 1982 and 1984. A lot of it is also what people listen to. Realistic expectations matters for putting out a good product. So I'm frustrated with Tuesday. I didn't have expectations we were going to win. We could have, I think if we'd have lost by 3 and 4 points, people would still be angry. So it's a long-term battle, and the systemic corruption of our elections with so much mail-in balloting going around makes it very easy to front-load hundreds of thousands of mail-in votes. And if they're fraudulent votes, you'll never know it because they don't want to get caught backing up truckloads of ballots and blocking off tabulation centers like they did in 2020 and 2022. All right, so being able to peel back and tighten up mail-in balloting is going to have a big impact on the overall ballot count of these races. People are starting to see that Jack Ciattarelli in New Jersey had a higher vote count than Phil Murphy, who won in 2021, but he lost by 13 points. Wow. I saw the same dynamic in Wisconsin's Supreme Court race in April, in which the Republican candidate, it was a nonpartisan race, but the quasi-Republican candidate had more votes than the one in 2023 who won, the Democrat that won by 10 points, had more votes than her, and he lost by 11 points. Wow. So they've mastered ballot collection. And the ballot collection, like in Pennsylvania, I'm not sure how early the ballots go out in an off-year election like this, but in presidential years, the ballots are out 50 days in advance of the election. You can't stand a chance to compete with the Democrat machine with 50 days to gather ballots.
Yeah, yeah. And everything that occurs after that is moot to those individuals who have already sent their ballot in.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's
Then that's a big argument against early voting and mail-in voting, is that people don't have the opportunity to see, any changes in the world that happen over a period of 30, 50 days.
Exactly. And a lot of people make up their mind in that last 30 days. Oftentimes that's the case.
And this is why you see those Google search trends. How do I change my vote when the first debate happens?
Yeah, exactly. So getting out the low prop voters is important, obviously, and it's
vital. It's vital. Okay. In some races, you have the party registration advantage to win no matter what happens. Like those 2 House specials in Florida in April, which were 30-point seats in the general election, but I knew that they'd probably be, at least double digits. If you have enough of an R plus or a D plus, you will weather the midterm dynamics if it goes against your party. But if you have anything close to parity in terms of party registration, you can count on the other base being more motivated and the independents leaning their way instead of yours. That's why things work this way.
Yeah. So at this point, I know it's early, but do you have any thoughts or ideas or predictions about 2028?
Yes. As it stands right now, if the presidential election were today, the Republican Party would hold the presidency. All the voter registration figures that I track, they're very predictive for presidential elections. That's a fuller turnout with a truer vote, with less people willing to vote for the other party. I suspect the Republican nominee will be J.D. Vance, and he is starting to make sure. I mean, he's a guy that is really present on the internet, for better or for worse. And he's already starting to recalibrate a lot of his positions based on what base voters are frustrated with. I'm one of Trump's base voters who's happy with his performance, understanding the constraints that he deals with, the corrupt courts, the small legislative majority, realizing that the other side wants to stop him at all costs. There is room for improvement, of course, and I think most people are happy with a lot of the global achievements, especially towards world peace, but also have the sense that it's time to work on domestic issues. So if there's things that are irritating base voters that maybe not turned out this week, it's a field that we focus more on the rest of the world than ourselves. But that's just minor criticism. But right now, things are shaping up for the Republican coalition to hold in 2028. However, that can change. That can change within 30 days. I can start to see a change, just like people watching a commodities market. So always have to be vigilant on that. But right now, it would look good for the Republican nominee to hold.
So, Seth, that's all great information. And, as I said, Seth has got a lot of information out there. He's done amazing analysis of elections up to this point and forward. Now, Seth, you've got a Substack out there. You've got a website. You've got all kinds of information. How can people get that information and learn more about you and what you do and really get some info about what's happening back here?
So Rachel and I, of course, are focused on the fight full time. Very proud of her. Rachel Keshel is a state representative here in Arizona, Legislative District 17, and she's a real champion for rights and liberties, fighting for the family courts, which are corrupt here in Arizona. She's she's fronted many measures in the legislature to clean up our elections. Unfortunately, we have Katie Hobbs in the governor's office. Kind of like your situation there in Pennsylvania. Even if you had a Republican majority in the legislature, you've got Josh Shapiro waiting to waffle anything he can get his hands on. But I'm very proud of her. And my work is ongoing. I've been blessed and privileged to brief the White House several times this year. So they take into consideration a lot of what I've got to say. You can check my work out at captaink.us. That's my Substack. It's a worldwide bestseller in U.S. politics. I focus on actionable information, what people can do, how people can understand the lay of the land in U.S. politics, and why U.S. politics still matters, even though it's a very frustrating practice.
and something you can't give up on. You have to keep fighting, as Seth just said. Seth, you are an amazing individual. I value you and all of your work. I want to stay in touch and see if we can get more information out as we move forward into 26 and 28. As I said, you're a blessed man to have a wife like Rachel. She's an amazing gal, and we appreciate
I agree.
both.
I agree.
I can tell.
I agree.
And same for you. You're a blessing to us. Thank you, my friend.
No, I appreciate that. I feel the same way. You guys are an essential force in a fight in the most critical state that we have. So
Appreciate that. Seth, you take care of yourself, my friend. Safe travels. I know you're in the midst of some work out there, so we'll let you go and get back to work.
sounds good, Doug. Appreciate you having me on.
Absolutely. Safe travels, my friend. Tell Rachel we said hello.
I will. I definitely will.
Appreciate you. Well, everybody, that was pretty amazing. Seth has a pretty unbelievable analysis of elections, how we can pivot and do better in this upcoming term in 26. It's a critical one, everyone. We cannot be apathetic. We can't sit on the sidelines. We cannot be on the bench. We have to be engaged. We have to be part of the process. And we have to get out there and get others engaged and have them become part of the process. So we'll be bringing you more information about every single one of our core values, including our biblical core value, which is our primary one. We're putting together right now a program on exposing Islam, and we have some amazing speakers that are going to be coming forward and giving you information about what's happening, not only here in our country, but what has already happened in Europe and is happening in Australia right now. So we're looking forward to bringing that to you as well. That'll be a large event, so we're looking forward to seeing a lot of you there, and we'll also be posting that as well. So take care. Thank you for being a part of our movement and part of our mission here at STN. Have a great day. Thank you again.